Hi friends, in today's video I'm going to talk about how we can use flows to update an account information with the contact details. In this example, uh, let's say whenever we are creating a contact or for updating any existing contact with a field called site location, we want to see all the information back into the related account for a new field called Worksite location. So for this requirement, we can use the flows concept and do it easily. So let's start the demo. I'm going back to my Salesforce instance. So this is my account. Let's say I have two contacts here currently. I'm going to one of the contacts. And for this contact, let's say I have a field called site location. And whenever user is selecting some site location, and when they click on save, if I go back to the account, and account also has a field called contact site location. So this is the field. So as we can see here, this is not updating with any value. So we can achieve this requirement by using the flows. As a first step, I am going to the setup. From the setup, I am looking for the flows. So I have some flows here. So for our requirement, I'm going to create a new flow. And as we all know that we have to trigger the flow whenever we are creating a contact or editing a contact. So for this requirement, we can go with the record trigger flow. So this option gives us to create or update any record. So whenever any record updates are happening in the backend. So I'm selecting record trigger flow and I'm clicking on next. So from here we can select whichever layout that we want to create a flow. So I'm just going with a free form for now. So once we select the free form, we get an option to select when the flow has to be filed. So for this option, we can click on the edit button, and here we have multiple options to select when the flow has to be triggered. So in our use case, we want to execute the flow whenever I am creating a contact or whenever I am updating the contact site location. So for that reason, I'm selecting the option as a record is created or updated, and I want to run the flow after the record is saved because I want to update the account information, not the contact information. So once I select the required details, I can click on the done button, and after that we need to select the object that we want to perform the flow operations. So here I'm going to select the contact object, and we can add some conditions here, or we can just select none and it will skip us not to add any conditions. But for our requirement, I'm just going to add one condition, that is I'm looking for the account ID is present or not. So I'm saying account ID does not equal to null, so I am selecting the global constant from here. So once I select it and click on done, with this action I have selected the object that I want to perform the action, and I selected when the flow has to be triggered. So as a first step, I am going to get all the contacts which are related to the account that I am going to perform. So for this node, I am going to name it as get records. So I'll just add a description as this node gives us all the contacts which are required to update the account information. So here I'm selecting the object as contact. So records of this object. From the contact, I'm adding a filter condition for the account ID. So I'm getting the account ID should be equal to the record that I am performing. So from here you can select the record, and from that record I can look for the account ID. So once I select these options, here we can select how many records we want to store. So as per our requirement, I'm going to select all the records option. And how to store the record data, I'm going to create a collection variable because I want to store all the contacts information that we got through this process. So I'm selecting the option as choose fields and assign variables. And here I'm going to create a collection variable. And I'll just select it as variable, and I will name it as get all contacts. And the data type is going to be record. And as we know, our object is going to be the contact. And I'll select this option because we want to get all the contact records. And I'll say done. So with this step, we got all the contact records. And here we can select the field that we have to consider for from the contact record. So in our use case, our field is site location. So I'm selecting the site location, and we'll say done. So once this option is completed, I'm going to link the start with the get records. And as a next step, I'm going to loop through all the records that I got from the contacts. So I'll just name it as loop. And our collection variable is going to get all contacts. And we'll just say done. So this option gives us to get all the contacts, and we'll loop it through all the contacts that we got. And here, after that, we'll create an assignment logic because we want to get the values first and assign the value to a variable, and we'll use the same variable for the account record. So I'll name it as store the assigned value. And here I'm going to create a new resource, and I'll select it as variable, and I'll name it as var selected value. And my data type is going to be text. My data, it's going to be text. My resource type is going to be variable, and my data type is going to be multi-select because we want to store different contact values into a variable, and we need to pass the values back into the account for a multi-select pick list. So I'm selecting this value, and once I say done, we need to give a name for this one, var selected values. So once this is done, I'm going to select the operator as add item because we have to loop through each item, and we'll add the values that we got from the different contact records. And we are going to store that variable with all the contacts that we are looping. And from there, I'll select my required field. So that is site location. So here what we are doing is we created a variable, and for that variable we are adding the values that we got through the all the all the looping contact records. So once this step is done, what we can do is we can just link these two nodes, and here we get an option to select if we want to loop through all the records or not. So I'm selecting option to loop through all the records, and we connected the loop with the assignment variable, and then now we will add one data element, that is update records. So for this one, I'm going to name it as update account record, and from how to find the records option, I'm going to select the specify conditions to identify the records, and my object is going to be the account here, and I'll add a condition as the account ID is equal to the record ID that I'm performing the record actions. And my field is going to be a contacts worksite location. So this is my field. I selected the field. And for this one, I'm going to use my multi-select variable that I created in the assignment logic. So selected that. So I'm just going to save it. Now I'm going to link the node with the loop value. So what will happen is whenever you get a value from the loop, so we're going to take the value, the final value, and assigning it back to the account record. So with this step, I'm going to save this flow and I name it as update account with contact details. Just save it. Now we have all the process here. Now I'm going to activate this flow. So the flow is activated. Now I'm going back to the same contact. So here I'm going to select some site location. So let's say I selected the site location as New York and save. I'm going back to the account. I'll do a refresh for this. And if I go to the details, I should see the contact worksite location as New York. Now let's say if I go back to the account and if I change it as Boston and save this, and if I go back to the account, I should see the contacts worksite location as Boston. So as we can see, the value is updated. So this is working fine with the update action. Now we'll try to add a new record here. So I'm going to create a new record, and here I'm going to select the site location as Chicago, and I'll just go for save. So when I save that, and if we go back to the details, I should see the Boston and Chicago. So this is the easiest way that we can build the requirements with the different logics by using the flows. And also if we just want to go through the contacts which has only the site location, we can add a decision logic here after getting the records, and we can adjust the flow as per our requirements. I hope you guys like the video, and if you guys have any questions, you can put a comment below the video. Thank you all.